Another week of my trading journey goes by. We're going to talk through everything this week, what happened, and to be honest, it has been quite a slow month so far in July. We haven't seen too much going on the charts, and it's a good time to reflect and actually talk through everything that's going on, I think. As for the news this week, we did have a lot of USD stuff. We had inflation there, which come out a little bit mixed. We had a declining than forecast overall CPI monthly print, but an overall higher yearly print, with a bit of mixed. Core PPI was quite bad, but then we saw core retail sales and retail sales come out good. Unemployment claim didn't look too shabby as well. So overall, quite a mixed bag for USD, but overall, I'd say slightly positive for USD. We can obviously see what happened going into this week. I'm going to talk through my overall bias because I was in trades on EU from last week. When we go to the weekly time frame, what I'm looking at is we've pulled back and we have closed below previous weekly low. We potentially left a order block here from the very highs of the year so far. We did break last year's highs and 2023, 2022 highs, I believe, as well. So we're very high up. We can't expect this to go up forever. At the same time, calling a top is very difficult, and that's something on the higher time frames I decide not to do a lot of the time. We're looking now to see if we can overall stay in this trade, because the first thing I wanted to assess was, is the trade still valid? What I decided was, even though I would say looking back at the extreme highs or extreme lows on EU over the past 5 years, every time that we've seen an engulfing candle that's potentially leaving an order block, the next week doesn't seem to play out too well. But assessing my overall strategy and deciding that otherwise I'd be looking for more trades, what I'd have been looking at going into this week. And this is something that you have to assess your overall move from the week before and going into the future week is, does this make sense to take? Because even though it could be part of your strategy, and to an extent, you could look at taking every single trade. I like to have that, like I said last week, a little bit of intuition, a little bit of, does this actually make sense? When we're looking at this, I would have set these up. First of all, I don't want to be in 3 trades at once. I'd rather be in 2 or 1. So automatically the lower one will go out. And then I'm looking at this overall. Does this make sense to carry on up? Well, I would say at this point, with an engulfing candle, I don't want to be setting extra positions. One thing I'm looking at on the daily time frame, because there's no weekly confirmation, so it's really hard to take a trade from here. The way we are in this weekly though, we don't have to have a weekly confirmation for me to take weekly trade buys. That's something I do look at. But when I'm looking at the lower time frame, on the daily at least, when we see lower highs created, we broke a high low here, and what we did there is continue to come down. So we are in a bit of a pullback structure. We've got to remember, on the daily overall, we are in a massive bull leg. The idea on this, though, I'd be looking at is, all right, so I'm not going to take risky buys in here at the minute. We don't know how far we can pull back. So I'm not going to take this. I'm going to wait for a lower high to be broken. And in that way, if this trade stays in, I win and I maximise a move. And if we lose this trade, I'm going to wait for more confirmation, because what a loss tells you, especially this high up. I've took one on GU already. Coming into this week, I'm in another buy on EU. If I lose on EU and GU here, I need to be careful in the next position of a buy, because especially going into a following week, maybe the same week you could take like maybe 2, but when you start taking 1 and then you have a time to assess the move, you need to then judge, is it worth it? So that's my bias. What am I looking for? Well, I'm obviously looking for the fill. We marked that up in red. If we can get the fill, I'm then looking to see if we can get a rejection to go up, and then I'll play buys. If we see the week close below here, I'm going to be very bearish all the way to this low, which is what my strategy dictates. So really, it's that simple. I'm not overcomplicating it. This has been a very slow period. We'll get to that once we see the week play out on what I did do this week. As for GU, a little bit of a different scenario, because we did see a very strong bearish close. One thing I was eyeing up was, I spoke about this red line previously and said this could be a great target if you're looking to sell down to it. I'm not going to do that. I'm also still waiting for a bullish engulfing candle, but I already know coming into this week. And that's where, if you are a swing trader, I think to an extent, you've got at least 50-60% knowledge if the week will just be dry and there'll be nothing. And I knew on GU there'd be no trades, because what I needed to see was, I needed to see us create a lower high and then fail and engulf to then play moves back up. Also, I was really waiting for this to be taken. Without that, would I want to play a buy? I just don't think it made sense. I was looking for this low to be nipped, and then I was looking for that fill on the weekly, which I've been waiting for really ever since we formed the high and started having issues there. been keeping a very close eye on it. And there has to be key levels that you're looking at to continue the move. If they don't get hit, you need to be very careful in playing that next move. So when we come on to this trade, going into the week, obviously I took a loss during this week here, so I'm very cautious and I do want to wait for this low to be taken potentially. So Monday, already, whether or not I closed out this position, I would have lost, because if I come onto Monday and made a judgment around here, I was near stop loss anyway, so I couldn't really have limited my risk on that anymore. So gracefully took that loss. So we're at 2 losses for July so far based on that trade. And this is the 3rd week. So next week's the 4th week. We've got 2 more weeks left of July. So really still plenty of time to catch a trade. When I'm looking at a move now, I'm still waiting. GU on Monday, we did continue down. And we're looking closer and closer now coming into that overall low. The reason being as well is this was quite a nice order block we formed. And we've just cleaned right past it. That's not good for upside. If you're looking for buys of this being respected, I said it last week, it was just too much to call. There was too much movement to the downside last week. And the way price is moving, the order flow isn't in the bulls right now. It's in the bears. And you've got to be careful when they're looking for that change. And what you want to see, not that I would have taken this necessarily, but whether that be 4 hour, 1 hour, you want to see the structure change. You can see it's bearish. You're just getting caught out in sells, and that's really a hard thing sometimes. When you're a newer trader, maybe intermediate, you can't distinguish between, is this actually a higher time frame pullback, or are we actually about to change on the higher time frames? But as you get more experience, you do start to be very careful with what you take, and you really want to see what you want to see. And that's the easiest thing as being a trader, is what you don't get is, and to be good, you don't have to call every move right. You can also call a move that you don't take. But what you make sure, when you do well, you make sure that you catch the move that you've planned for. And when you don't plan for it, and you do take it, dangerous game. So that's coming into Tuesday. We then saw a continuation down here, not taking this low out yet on GU. And we did see price come all the way down, do that weekly fill. What can I get from Tuesday's candle on EU? Well, we potentially left quite a big imbalance fill. If we don't do that, we're going to leave fair value gap for the first time since we actually made this pullback. Been somewhat staggered. Now we've filled this and we close below it. It's not looking the best to continue up now, is it? So you're starting to eye up these other areas. You've got this daily in here, which I will happily mark in. Could have that easily marked in this week as potential area for upside. That was quite a good option. We then saw the next day, tag it, 50% not hit, and we did come up. We had some funny news there, so we did muck about a little bit. We had the news here, I believe, was something about Trump getting rid of Powell, which obviously has caused a bit of uncertainty. But again, with that close there, what does that show to me? It's really not looking good for any more EU upside right now. You want to see further downside rejections before you get anything. GU, we then did take this low out. We did close bullish. What we did, again, you can start marking up these areas. We almost retested previous weekly low. We then created a fair value gap and we've pretty much filled it and rejected, not engulfed. So again, no buys for me there. Going into Thursday, we saw an engulfing bearish candle that did tap back in and actually hit 50% of that daily. I don't know, it's just not looking good enough. I'm waiting to see this break now for a buy. So I'd be looking for buys now. So the two things I'm looking at coming into yesterday, which is Friday, I'm recording this on Saturday right now, is I'm looking for the first thing is to see this weekly break for confirmation that we're going down. So going into Friday, that's the first thing I'm looking at. Second thing is, I'm only going into Monday buying if we engulf. And otherwise, it's still no trade days sitting out of the market. What do? We failed to come up. At one point, it was looking like it was going to engulf. It actually had some quite nice upside. But this is quite worrying to me. We're just starting to see these wicks. It isn't looking great because all this is a lower time frame pullbacks, either liquidity grabs or, respecting maybe 4 hour structures, taking out loads of liquidity. This was building up over the last couple of weeks, and it doesn't mean you have to come into all of it at the highs. You can just come into some of it, and we did see that. We come into liquidity, we wicked it, and then we had a harsh rejection off it. We've pulled back into that wick again, and we're coming back down. So I think for the minute, EU, although when we get the weekly, we see the close, because I didn't take trade, so it's easy to talk about the closes and maybe what I'm looking for next week, is we can see here that we did not break this. So as the weekly here is still being respected, and we aren't really bearish, this wasn't the strongest candle and the wick was quite big, I'm still not bearish on EU. I'm not going to be selling it. I would have to see the weekly break. So another week of being bullish. And what I need to see now is another failure to the downside. And then if we get a strong candle, then the buys are on again. And I'll take that chance of a buy. And that's the last chance of this leg being respected. So I'm happy to take the buy there. And we are, if you were to mark out the fib, a bit more now in the discount, which is looking up. It hit the 750, 705. There's options now for price to go up. But at the minute, I want to see a daily confirming that. Then I'll take the buy. We've got a lot of room to come up to the high as well. So with over 200 pips target, with a 50 pip stop, for example, I can catch a 4R. Even if I wait maybe for this to consolidate and give us a confirmation. So I'm happy sitting out. Even if it comes up a bit higher, it doesn't really matter to me. I can still get a good R of that. As for GU, coming into the weekly close, we never did. We come back into this daily again on Friday and we did close bearish. Weird price action. Weird candles. No fill on the weekly. So I would still be more bearish and favouring a pullback on GU on the higher time frames. I need to see a weekly break of that to be bearish to this liquidity. So yeah, again, I'm still at the minute. I don't think I'm bearish to continue down at the minute. We have taken this low out. Therefore, maybe this area is a great area for a sell. And I will have to evaluate that because I'm not 100% sure if many scenarios have happened like this, where I still don't think I'm bearish, but I'll assess it. I'll do some work over the weekend and evaluate if that's worth it. But that's the week done. As for the live data coming into July, we're at 2 losses so far, and you've had 2 good months prior, so I'm not expecting anything special coming into some months. I'm still open to having a good month though. I do want to have a profitable month, but again, I'm not going to make it happen. And 2 losses so far is minor. They're 2 trades that I'm willing to take and worth the risk in my opinion. So yeah, we've had 2 losses. That's really it. Setting up for the accounts, we do have no EU trade taken on these 2, so we're only down 0.9 and down 0.5, down a little bit, 1.5%. Funded next, we're down a little bit more due to swaps, but yeah, I did risk 1.5% on them 2 positions this month, down nearly 2%, which is fine. I may reduce my risk to 0.65 to allow for some swaps there because they do seem to be a bit higher than the 5ers and FTMO. Think Capital, we're still at 5%, no EU trade taken on that one, so we're still really waiting for that phase 1 to get passed. And there's something about phase 1 that is just so long, because if it gets to phase 2, in my head I'm like, right, this can get passed soon, and usually it gets passed in a month. I don't know whether that's because of the win streaks I've been on during that period have just hit, and I don't seem to go in too much drawdown on phase 2, but phase 1 it can be long because you can go into quite a bit of profit and then you can get dragged back all the way into drawdown, 95k, 92k, and then you're nearly losing it. It's a long game, but at the minute I'm happy with the way things are going on this one, considering I have had it for like 4 or 5 months. Very, very slow. E8, we've had the 2 losses there, 1% on each one, so we're down 2% on E8 200k, and that's it. That is literally the month so far. A testament again to any traders that are out there that are funded and they're looking for that first win, that first payout. Remember that I'm sitting here 3 weeks in to this FTMO, maybe nearly 4 weeks, and my payout dates are actually coming up next week here. Let's click onto this just to show you that you can change the date. It doesn't matter about you hitting profit here. I'm not going to try and hit profit. I can move back the date. I can move forward the date. So in theory, I can get a payout whenever I want. I can obviously move this back. What I want to stress though is, I always say it, but the payout date means nothing because you're not guaranteed it at any point. You're never going to get there's no trader that's been funded for 2 or 3 years, that's had consistent 2-on-2 week payouts throughout their full funded process. And it's how you deal with it when you don't that shows the character. So we're maybe going to skip this and maybe go into August for the next one. As you can see there, the start was 26th of June. Come up to a month on this account, 1 trade taken. To me, that's discipline. To me, that's sticking to my rules. To me, that's not trying to make profit. That's sticking to the processes that I do day by day. And the profit is always going to be a byproduct that I don't really want to be caring about if it hits profit. And that's a mindset, if you do adopt, you will do better significantly quicker than if you do what you're doing right now and rushing things. Remember, there is no rush. The only rush you're in is the rush you think you're against other traders that are out there, when really it's all against yourself. Your journey is specific to you. Your journey will be different to everyone else that's ever took part in prop firms to start with. Remember that when you're doing these, and really focus on how you can become the best trader not how you can become the best in payouts. And that's it. Hope you guys had a good week. We'll come back on next week and hopefully we'll catch a move finishing off the month. If not, we may take a few more losses, but that is part of the game. See you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. Peace out.